Hey everybody, Avi Abelo here, and we are back with some more very, very frustrating information. Extremely frustrating information. One second, a little tech issue. Okay. How's the sound now, folks? Alright, we good with sound now? Everyone give me a yes. Give me a yes for good sound. Alright. Hello, hello, hello. Shalom. Don't hear you. Still no sound? Hello, 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 hello. Still no sound? Now there is sound. Alright. Okay, here we go. Rule of law, folks. Here we go. Rule of law, a disgrace. Right now I'm going to be talking to you about the illegal Arab Bedouin community of shacks called Khan al-Ahmar. The whole world right now is up in arms, pressuring Israel, pressuring Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government not to follow the law, not to follow Israeli Supreme Court rulings, that this illegal grouping of shacks must be destroyed. What are we talking about? We're talking about literally a group of shacks. That's what they are, because that's what the Bedouin live in. They live in these shacks on the hillside of the Jordan Valley, the Negev Desert, and also here we're talking about Judea and Samaria. This community of Khan al-Ahmar is located not even 5 minutes away from the Israeli city of Ma'ale Adumim, less than a 10-minute drive from Jerusalem. All right? That's the location. And there are plenty of Bedouin shack communities on the hillsides. Okay? Some of them are built on non-recognized land, and others are built on state land, therefore they built them illegally. Okay. This specific grouping of Bedouin shacks, Khan al-Ahmar, is located right next to the main thoroughfare, the main highway. You have people and children who cross the main highway. You're talking a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes in each direction. And this family or group of families of Bedouin set up their shacks right next to the highway. And it's on state-owned land, Israeli state land. So this case of this illegal community has been going through the court system for over 10 years. Over 10 years. And time after time, the courts say that it is illegal and it must be destroyed. And then they appeal. Now, first of all, understand something. Who is appealing? The ones who are appealing are anti-Israeli non-profit organizations who do not care about keeping Israel Jewish and safe. They are more interested in allowing our enemies to build illegally and get out of jail free after they murder us and not have their houses destroyed, even though the Israeli law is that a terrorist home is destroyed. All right? They are always going to the courts and using the Israeli Supreme Court to help our enemies and the terrorists and not look after the best interests of Israel and Israeli citizens. In addition, who else is behind all these court cases and appeals against the destruction of illegal communities of the Arabs of the Bedouin? The Palestinian Authority. Okay? Now, the Palestinian Authority doesn't give a hoot about these Bedouin, but they use these as cause célèbres. They use these as cases they could take to the courts, they could take to the press, they could take to the world media, they could take to the United Nations to, one, make Israel look bad, because Israel's going to be destroying an Arab illegal community, and then use it to show here Israel is stealing our land and the whole world has to side with us and help us because it's really them who are stealing Jewish land and Israeli land. So that's what's going on. All right? So this has been in the courts for years. Finally, the Israeli Supreme Court made a final decision that it must be destroyed. Okay? Believe it or not, they made this decision like 2 months ago, around then. Then there was another appeal that the Supreme Court said, okay, we'll let this appeal go through. And then they just came out with another final decision that it must be destroyed. The Supreme Court, right? And if you know me and you listen to Ari, you know we have a problem with our Supreme Court here in Israel. It is very ideological. It doesn't make rulings always based on the law. It makes rulings based on its globalist, multiculturalist agenda, not looking after Israel's best interests or the Israeli people, Israeli citizens' best interests. So here, surprise, surprise, we actually have an Israeli Supreme Court ruling where finally something that was deemed illegal built by the Arabs, the Supreme Court upholds and it must be destroyed. Right? The Israeli Supreme Court that's always against us is finally for actually upholding the law in Israel's best interests. Right? So now, again, pressure upon Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pressure upon the Israeli government. What happens this morning, or even was it this last night or this morning? Newsflash, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu postpones giving the order to the police and the army to take down this illegal Arab Bedouin community of shacks. Now, here is the disgrace, folks. And I can't tell you how infuriating this is. It does not surprise me at all. I knew this and I know this, but this is just the nail in the coffin that shows the disgrace of our own government together with our own Supreme Court that has one set of laws for Jews and one set of laws for Arabs, and it's the same law being implemented differently. Right? What did I just tell you? Khan al-Ahmar, it's illegal. The Israeli Supreme Court made a final ruling to be destroyed. It then reneged on its final ruling that it never does. For an appeal, it then has another final ruling to destroy it according to the law. And now Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says even though there's a final ruling, he will postpone the destruction, which a postponement basically means we don't know whether it's going to happen or not. It might happen, but in Israel, and I don't know whether it applies in other countries, but temporary becomes permanent. If something is supposed to be permanent, but it's not, then whatever the temporary situation then ends up becoming permanent because it's already been dealt with, and then it's forgotten, so the temporary stays permanent. So when Israelis hear that a destruction is postponed, what we hear, we have rings ringing in our head, ding, 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 ding. That means it's probably never going to happen, unless we put tremendous pressure upon Bibi to implement the law and have this illegal Arab Bedouin community destroyed. Where's the hypocrisy? For those of you who are not familiar, just a number of months ago, there was a whole community of Jews called Netiv Avot destroyed. Why? Because the Supreme Court said it was illegal, and the government said, well, the Supreme Court said it's illegal, and even though they were trying to have solutions not to destroy it, legal solutions not to destroy it, the government said, because the Supreme Court said it's illegal, we have to destroy it, and we have to throw away all the solutions all the legal solutions we're working on. That's Netiv Avot. Number one. Follow my hand, folks. That's number one, Netiv Avot. We have Tapuach West, another community of homes. Supreme Court ruled Jewish homes are built illegally, and then the government, again, working on solutions. But once the Supreme Court came with a final ruling of it being destroyed, the government said, that's it, we can't work on the solutions. Destroyed. All the Jewish families thrown out of their homes. We have Migron, a whole community. Same exact thing. Destroyed. All the families had to move out and see their homes destroyed. A whole community. Again, government was working on solutions, but once the Supreme Court came with a ruling, the government said, that's it, can't do anything, Supreme Court ruled, we have to destroy. Why? Because Israel is a state of law. We have Amona. We have the homes of Ofra. I've already just given you 5, and this is only some of the cases where there are legal issues of land in Judea and Samaria. There are legal issues. There are also legal solutions, and the government is trying to work on those solutions. But each and every time the Supreme Court rules that Jewish homes must be destroyed, the Israeli government then goes, sorry, we didn't have enough time to work on the solutions. Supreme Court has a ruling. We have to enforce the law according to the Supreme Court. All the Jews are expelled from their homes, and the Jewish homes are destroyed. What do we see in Khan al-Ahmar? Hypocrisy. We see a second rule of law for non-Jews. The Supreme Court had a final ruling whenever any of these Jewish communities went to the Supreme Court and a final ruling came up, they never allowed another appeal. The Supreme Court always used a legal clause saying finality. Once they come up with a final decision, there is no more appeals allowed. That's what they used each and every time a Jewish community had legal solutions working with the government, and even though the Supreme Court came with a final ruling, and the residents and the government said, listen, we have a solution, they say, no, finality. We, the Supreme Court, came up with a final solution, no more appeals. What do we see with Khan al-Ahmar? They allowed an appeal even after the final court decision of the Supreme Court. One set of rules for Jews, one set of rules for Arabs. That's one. And then, each and every time the Supreme Court rules that communities must be destroyed, the Israeli government goes, we have to do it immediately. The Supreme Court gives a date that it must be done, and then the government goes, we have to do it. The Supreme Court said it has to be done. We have to follow the law. Guess what, folks? The Supreme Court in this Khan al-Ahmar case, it didn't give a deadline. It didn't give a deadline. For the Jewish communities, it either always gives a deadline or the government goes, we have to do it now because the Supreme Court ruled. Here, even though the Supreme Court ruled, and according to the law, it's supposed to be destroyed within this week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who does so much good for Israel, and do not take this as if I'm against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but in this case he made a huge, huge mistake, and I'm calling him out on it. Even though when every Jewish community asks for more time, and the government goes, no, the Supreme Court ruled we have to do it, here he postponed it. He postponed it. He's not going according to the Supreme Court ruled, and therefore we have to do it. They always say the rule of law, the rule of law. The Supreme Court ruled in order for Israel to be a state of laws, we must follow according to the Supreme Court ruling. A bunch of BS. BS. For Arabs, for Bedouin, they don't enforce the law according to the Supreme Court. But when it comes to destroying homes, illegal homes, they always happen to find solutions. Do you know the thousands of illegal homes that Bedouin and Arab have built in the Negev and in the Galil? Right? And the Supreme Court always, go find a solution. And the government is, let's find a solution. Because they don't want to be seen as destroying illegal homes built by Arabs. But they're illegal! On Israeli state land that was taken illegally by the Arabs and the Bedouin. Thousands of homes. Thousands! And the government ends up whitewashing them, right? That's what it's called. When they find a solution to end up saying, we're going to make them kosher. Retroactively, we're going to make them legal even though they're illegal. But anytime a Jewish community is on the chopping block because of legal questions about the land rights, never do they look for the solutions. Never. It's always the Supreme Court rules it must be destroyed, and the government destroys the Jewish homes. Again, folks, I am giving you the high-level information. There are a lot of details and differences between each and every case, but the bottom line is the same. We see a disgusting and disgraceful application of law, one set of laws for Jews where our homes are destroyed according to the law, and one set of laws for the Arabs and the Bedouin, that in most cases their homes are not destroyed. Sometimes they are, okay, sometimes they are, but in many, if not most cases, they are not. And the hypocrisy screams to high heaven, and no longer can we let Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or any prime minister get away with saying, oh, the rule of law, the Supreme Court ruled we must do it and we must do it now, otherwise we're not a rule of law. That's a bunch of hot poppycock. Because when it comes to the Arabs and the Bedouin, they whitewash and go against the law, and they don't enforce the law. And they push aside the Supreme Court rulings in order to allow the Arabs and Bedouins to continue living in their homes and their shacks. So don't you dare, Jewish homes must be destroyed because of the rule of law, yet Arab and Bedouin homes allowed to stay and going against the law. A disgrace, a disgrace. And you want to know something? I am sure Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has his reasons. Pressure from the United Nations, pressure from the European countries, but there might even be pressure from the American administration. Maybe. I doubt it, but there might be. President Trump might be saying, you know, baby, I know you got to do this, and I know this is the right thing to do, and I know it's the law, and I know your voter base are going to be upset at you, but now's not a good time. Maybe President Trump is doing that. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just got himself a huge X. A huge X because he comes out looking like a hypocrite. A hypocrite. On his own. Applying a separate set of laws for Jews and non-Jews. That is a disgrace, and I'm calling him out on it. I have no problem with having to be a country of law and order. I have no problem. But one set of laws. One set of laws. And right now he's looking like a hypocrite. To his own voter base, he's coming out looking like a hypocrite. Not even explaining why he's making these actions. Coming out looking like a hypocrite. And understand, I do believe at this point in time, and definitely the 8 years of the Obama administration, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was the best prime minister we could have had out of anyone realistically to have been a prime minister. He's the best one that's possible out of the realistic options, okay? Understand that. Even today, out of anyone realistically able to be the prime minister, I'm not talking about who my dream prime minister would be right now. I'm saying looking at the political landscape in Israel and the parties that could win and potentially have their leader be the prime minister, right now, Benjamin Netanyahu is the best one Still, if elections are tomorrow. That's just the way it is. And I am a member of the Likud party, for good or for bad, for political reasons. I've been a member of the Likud party to make an influence and a difference within the party, to make sure it's as pure as possible, as crazy as that word sounds in politics, because there's no purity in politics, but trying to make a difference that the right people are elected within that party, because I don't want leftists taking over the Likud party. So that's why I'm part of it. I know Ari was part of the Ichud HaLeumi party. He was he helped Bezalel Smotrich. Ari and I did not have many arguments ideologically. It was just a practical political decision of which party to support for leadership and elections, but ideologically we are on the same page. And I am pushing that ideology in Likud as well, and there are plenty of Likud members who hold the same ideology as me. And we've been making a difference, and the Likud is what it is today because we are in it. If everyone ideological like me would have not been in the Likud all these past few years, it would not be the strong right-wing party it is today, and it should be stronger, and we're trying to work to be stronger. How much longer I'm going to stay a Likud member? I don't know, but right now I'm there. What I'm trying to say is the following, that as a Likud member, I am calling out Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of the Likud party, for this blatant hypocrisy of showing us all that he can't just blame the Supreme Court. We have our problems with the Supreme Court, but right now the Supreme Court ruled for the law that an Arab Bedouin community be destroyed because it is illegal. And it is not the Supreme Court that's the problem in this case. It is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who comes out looking like he's given in to the pressure, the anti-Israel pressure, that should not ever be done. That's just a disgrace, folks. Anyone interested in learning more information about this case itself, Khan al-Ahmar, or any illegal building issue in Israel, because I told you there are thousands of illegal Arab buildings in the Negev and in the Galil, as well as Judea and Samaria, follow the organization called Regavim. Okay, folks? Regavim. R-E-G-A-V-I-M. Google it. Follow it. Very important information. Very important organization to support. They are fighting to save Israeli lands. Because unfortunately, like Ari used to talk about, and I talk about, the Supreme Court is not looking after protecting Israeli lands. They're always giving it over to our enemies, even when they take it over illegally. And even the Israeli government, again, you know, in America you have the swamp, right? You have the swamp in America. You have the bureaucratic swamp that President Trump is working against in America. His administration is trying to work against this swamp of bureaucracy that's working against the Trump administration. Well, here too we have the very, very similar situation. We have a bureaucracy that's a swamp that's working against the policies of a right-wing Likud Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu government. They're always after him in the courts. They're trying to remove him to be prime minister. You have the legal advisors always Xing right-wing agenda policies and legislation. So even though we have a right-wing government in Israel, we have a swamp always trying to nullify each and every legislative change that would strengthen Israel as a Jewish state and strengthen us security-wise as well. Because we have a swamp. Just like Washington has a swamp, we have a left-wing swamp. So I am very grateful for what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has succeeded in doing. And he's accomplished a lot, again, understanding that he's fighting this swamp. But I'm not going to be silent when he comes out looking at a hypocrite, where even the swamp sided with him. It's nuts. So again, folks, That's just some of the information. That's the tip of the iceberg, but that's what we're dealing with. That's what's happening now. That's the information you should know about on a high level, dealing with Khan al-Ahmar. But definitely go Google Regavim, Regavim. Believe it or not, this is really cool and important. The parliament member of Knesset, who Ari was closest to, Bezalel Smotrich, before he became a parliament member in Knesset, he ran this organization, Regavim. This was something he was an expert in. He was a fighter fighting to save the lands of Israel from the non-implementation of law by the Israeli government and the Israeli courts. So that's what Bezalel Smotrich did before he went to the Knesset, and that's who Ari was working closely with before he was murdered. All right, folks, I'm out of here. That's the sad situation right now. I really, really hope there is tremendous pressure upon Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu right now. Everyone in the nationalist camp here in Israel is calling him out on this hypocrisy. Everyone. He's coming out looking horrible. Horrible. So, look up the email address for the Prime Minister's office. This is something you can do. You don't have to be silent. Go to the Knesset website, go to the Prime Minister's office website, find the email address. I will look for it as well and put it in the post. Email the Prime Minister's office and tell him that this is a disgrace and he must overturn this decision and implement the law to destroy this illegal Arab Bedouin community. He comes out looking horrible by sanctioning a different application of law for Jews versus Arabs. So everyone, look that up. I'll look up the email as well. Email the Prime Minister's office and write in and saying he must overturn his decision and have it destroyed immediately for him to have any semblance of legitimacy that he himself is not applying two different sets of laws to Jews versus non-Jews. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Thank you all for watching. I'd want to go through messages. I just don't have the time right now. Well, let me just see what we got very quickly. The beginning. Let's see. Some of you. I heard today that Israel. Yes. Randy's writing today is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's birthday. Yes, and even though here's the thing, folks. Please email and tell him to overturn his decision and go according to the law. In that same email, wish him a happy birthday. The best approach in life is not just with anger, but it's with honey and a stick, a carrot and a stick. Wish him happy birthday and then say, Prime Minister Netanyahu, you just made a mistake. Correct it. Go according to the Supreme Court ruling. Have one rule of law for Jews and Arabs. So wish him a happy birthday and then tell him that. So yes, Rand, you are correct. Liba, so happy Facebook finally put you in my feed. Thank you so much, Liba, for that. I appreciate it, and thanks so much for watching. Carol's the Watchman, watching from Trinidad and Tobago. Amazing. Shannon, big oi. Charlotte, BB is serving international law, has no balls to protect Jews. So, again, Charlotte, I don't go that far, okay? I don't go that far. There's a saying in Judaism, dan lekaf zchut, giving someone the benefit of the doubt. I am sure Bibi has his reasons for doing this. I'm sure he wants to apply the law. I'm sure he has his reasons for doing this. I just don't want to let him get away with it because he is coming out looking like a hypocrite and his own voter base is extremely angry at him right now. So he is trying to protect the Jews. I think he should be doing more. I'm not always happy with what he's doing, what he's not doing. I do know he's trying to protect us and making the best decisions he thinks is possible. I do trust him. I just think he's also making mistakes. So that's my take on Bibi Netanyahu with all of my anger with him, and I'll call him out when I'm angry with him, when I think he makes a mistake. But all in all, I do trust that he believes he's doing the right, not just that he believes he's doing the right thing, but he has his reasons. Other than that, he is trying to protect us, even though I think he should be doing more. What else? God bless Israel. Amen. What else do we got? Dawn, same here in America. We have one set of laws for illegals and Americans. Exactly. And again, this comes down to the same issue, folks. And this is the same issue that follows everything. There is a multiculturalist, globalist agenda out to rip and destroy the national identity of peoples. And we, Jews in Israel, have to stand up strong for our Jewish identity. We have to be proud Jews and stand up for it, stand up for our country, be proud to be patriots. The same thing in America, the same thing in Britain, the same thing in France. Everybody, do not let these little issues get in the way. Understand it's a global agenda to get rid and destroy of our national identities. It's up to us to strengthen our national identities and fight against this liberal multiculturalist mindset that has taken over the courts, taken over many government ministries, taken over many politicians. That's the bottom line. So we have the same battle, basically. SJ, I had no idea there was so much hate on God's land. I don't know, SJ, what you're referring to. Forgive me. Carol, we have these type of nuts in the USA too. Liberals to destroy foundations of countries. Some Soros types smear and blame. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing we're up against. Liba, Avi, I love Israel, but this is what happens when a people is more afraid of their government than the government afraid of their people. All right, Liba, I'm going to say something else. First of all, I want everyone to understand, all right, and Ari gave this message, and I'm going to give this message. Every once in a while, if I have an angry rant, I love this country, and this is the only country I want to live in. This is the only country I want my children to live in. This is the only country I want the Jewish people to live in. We have challenges and we have things we have to change, but I want to be here to work on changing them. Sometimes we have better government, sometimes we have worse government. Sometimes we have a prime minister I support, like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sometimes I have prime ministers that they're horrible, doing tremendous damage, like Ehud Barak, like Yitzhak Rabin, like Shimon Peres, like Yair Lapid. I don't trust him to become prime minister. Okay, so but again, if any of those people, even when those people were prime minister, I did not leave my country. Right? Even when they were making mistakes. Same thing as Obama was president. Americans who thought Obama was horrible. Did you leave your country even though you went through 8 years of what I believe he was destroying America, and some of you might have thought that as well? No, you stayed in America. Same thing here. This is my country, and I'm going to stay here whether it's a government I agree with or a government I don't agree with. But I'm going to be here to make the difference and make it better and survive those years of a bad government. Right now, we don't have a bad government. We have the best government possible for those who understand the politics of Israel. But sometimes we have a prime minister who does things that I think are wrong. And that's why I'm here to call him out on him. But Israel is the place for Jews to be. And we are blessed to be here, and we're blessed to have our own army, even with all of our issues and even with all of our complaints. All right, folks, I am out of here. Thank you so much for watching. With the share. Let's get the information out there, and definitely look up Rigavim and send an email to the Prime Minister's office telling him happy birthday. And Prime Minister, if you want to hold up your integrity, overturn your decision and have that illegal Arab community of Khan al-Ahmar destroyed ASAP. Shalom, shalom from the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, folks. Thanks for watching.